On behalf of the family, I'd like to thank all of you for coming, especially those of you who are remote. There's a number of people that should have been here, would love to have been here, but the circumstances are very difficult right now with the coronavirus. And I want to say a special hello to my dad, who would have been here, but he's 82 and he's suffering from shingles and he's in severe pain. But he would have been a much better speaker than I am. My name is Edward James Bear. I am Laura's oldest son. I was named after her father, Edward Henry Hasselman. My mom was born Laura Alice Hasselman on January 23rd, 1938, in Holden, Massachusetts, which is in the suburbs of Boston. My mom was Catholic. No, my mom was very Catholic. I think she would have wanted a Catholic blessing. So I've got one here. If you'll all help me, we'll get through this. Mom, may you receive the Lord's blessing. May the Lord bless you and watch over you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look kindly upon you and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Mom came into this world as a daughter, a niece, a cousin, and a granddaughter. Mom was born into a loving family. When she was about 6, they fostered a friend, Lee Smith. Mom's father, Edward Henry Gamble, was a florist, so they always had flowers around. So Mom would be very happy to have flowers here. Mom did not have an easy life. Shortly after she was born, World War II started, and so did rationing. Mom hated a new invention called margarine. It didn't look or taste like butter. In fact, it was white. And they were given these little yellow pills to crush up and mash into it to make it look like butter. So Mom used to take her ration tickets as a child, and she would get butter for herself, real butter. That was an important thing she would talk about, told me numerous times. At the age of 8, her father died. As a single parent, her mother, Alice, could no longer be a foster parent to Lee, but they would always be connected. Alice now had the daunting task of being the breadwinner and raising Mom. She provided for her by scrubbing floors and cleaning people's houses. Mom was an only child, but she collected sisters. This is my sister Lee. This is my church sister. This is my Peruvian sister. Funny, she never collected brothers. I'm not sure what that says, but she did collect sons. Some of you may remember Jimmy Fisher. Jimmy Fisher loved my mom, would call her Mom, and she just loved it. And then Paul, whenever my mom would leave our house, would say, "Bye, Mom," and I hated it. I really did. I'm her son. She doesn't have any sisters. But I'm going to tell you right now, I was wrong. How much better would this world be if we all treated each other like family? My mom met my dad, James Edward Bear, when he was in the Army in Massachusetts. They got married, and in one heck of a good fortune of luck, he got transferred to Germany instead of Vietnam. He was supposed to be transferred to Vietnam, and some guy wanted to trade him. My goodness. So that's how I ended up being born in Germany. The women there wouldn't talk to my mom. It was like they hated her or something. Until they found out she wasn't German. They thought she was a German that had married an American soldier. Well, with a name like Hasselman, she certainly had Germanic features. And I was blonde haired and everything. I was born with everything but the lederhosen. So I looked German. So once they found out she was an American, they were very nice to her. But that was very upsetting for her. We all returned to the U.S. via ship. I was with my mom. My dad came over on a military ship. So that made me fresh off the boat. I don't know all the details, but when we moved to California, we lived in San Francisco, first in Mrs. Schultz's apartment, then in Mr. Newman's apartment, where my folks managed the apartment house. This was right adjacent to Golden Gate Park, where my mom would take me to play. As I mentioned earlier, my mom's father passed away when she was only 8 years old. And then her mom would pass away when her mom was only 49 years old. My mom was convinced that she would never make it to 50. It caused her a great amount of stress and, I believe, headaches. Imagine her relief when she made it to 50. I said, "You didn't think you were going to make it?" She said, "Nope." My mom was a good cook, but I thought she was a fantastic baker. Apparently, when she married my dad, she wasn't a great cook. Dad told me she had problems figuring out how much water to use. But she learned to be a good cook by the time I could remember eating, and she made everything. For example, she made pizza from a kit from Chef Boyardee. It had the dough and the sauce and the cheese, which she would then put squares of American cheese on her pizza. That's how I learned to like pizza. But she made potato chips by slicing the potatoes using I think it's called mandolin. And she baked bread. That's where I learned to bake bread. And she made donuts. Now, they were plain. I didn't even know that you could have chocolate or sprinkles on until I was much older. But she really, in the beginning, cooked everything. Mom loved babies, and she was a great mom. And right from the beginning, she knew how many kids she was going to have. She wanted a big family because she was an only child. She was going to have 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. Now, hang with me here. At the time, it seemed like Mom was pregnant with my brother David for most of my life. Remember, my memory started around 2 or 3, just before 3. And Dave was born when I was 3 3/4. So she seemed like she was pregnant forever at the time. Anyway, St. Mary's Hospital was only 2 blocks away. And eventually one day, my mom walked over to the hospital and gave birth to David Charles Bear right there. Finally, my folks had enough money put together to buy a house. And that was in Hayward, California, where Susan Alice Bear was born. We were there a little over a year, and then we moved to our house in Glendora, California, where we spent a fair amount of time. Which brings us to Robert Joseph Bear, who was born there. I think you're what? Glendora or Covina? Covina, same thing. Anyway, so wait, what happened to the 4 kids? Well, we at that point were 4, but we weren't 2 boys and 2 girls. Now, I'm not going to say they were really sure about this, but when they were in Rome, they bought 4 rosaries, 2 black, 2 white. So that plan didn't quite work out. Mom did a pretty awesome job of raising us kids. David, Susan, Bob, Becky, and myself. Our family was active in Scouts. Mom was a den mother. We were active in sports, baseball, basketball, tennis, swimming, water polo. Mom was always there to watch us. 7 years after Bob was born, Rebecca Ann Bear was born. In some ways that kind of fixed. We had 2 boys and 2 girls, but we had a spare, but it just never worked out. Anyway, shortly after that, we moved to Pleasant Hill. Kids finished growing up and moving on. A word to the grandchildren. Leela, Ceci, Charlie, and Jake, you will never know how much joy you brought to your grandmother. She loves you completely and totally. It was one of the greatest thrills in her life to see each of you born, and she enjoyed all of your successes. She was there for a lot of graduations of kids and grandkids. And there were all of those Easters, Thanksgivings, and Christmases. To my cousins, she loved you all very dearly as well. And we have the flowers up here from Sacramento, and we thank you. The Bear family was her family too. Mom was a very religious person. She not only went to church on Sundays, but during the week as well. And she was involved with things like Sarah, soup kitchens. And she was even involved at a time learning, helping kids to learn to read. I'm going to tell you that if she's not in heaven, a lot of us are in trouble. The last family event that Mom attended was the wedding of her eldest granddaughter, Leela. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, she did not get out of her tiny car. But we had it right in front of our house where we had to hold the wedding. She could see and hear everything. She even had tacos, untouched by human hands. She was so happy. A week and a half later, she suffered a great pain and was faced with a choice of surgery or hospice. It was thought that her heart was too weak for surgery, but she was still given the choice. Even if she survived, it was explained that the recovery would be lengthy and she would be alone. There would be no visitors permitted. In the end, she chose hospice. She was given morphine. The pain was gone. She passed away in her house, on her terms, with her family. Now she is back with a family that she was born into. May you rest in peace. I'm going to go through one at a time and see if any of you would like to come up here and speak. It's your choice, yes or no. So, Dave, you still? Okay. Susan, would you like to come up and speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Douglas. I think of my mother in a very heroic way because of what she did for me.
You could take the mask off.
As a young girl, I went to school. I excelled at math, but I couldn't read. My mother did something heroic in my brain, my thinking. It's very hard for women that were born in her age to stand up to authority. And my mother saw my report card, and she knew I couldn't read. I was in the 4th grade and I could not read. She went to the school and talked to my teacher. And my teacher told her, just don't worry about her, she's a girl. My mother got mad. And when she went to the principal, she was yelling. She demanded that I be helped. Kids should never go through school without being able to read. And yes, I was great at math. The next year in 5th grade, I spent the year with her putting pressure on the school and the school district to get me tested for special education. It didn't happen until I was in 6th grade, and the very first day of school, I walked to school at junior high, just to see Mom in the parking lot, walking towards the office. She was going to make sure that I got the help that I needed. By the time I was a sophomore in junior high, I had not only caught up to my peers, but I could read. Because of her, I graduated from high school with good grades, taking regular classes, and I graduated taking the proper classes that any student in the state of California would be required to take at that time. That was quite an accomplishment for me because they said I would never graduate from high school when I was in elementary school. That I should set my standards to think about being a housewife. After I had my son, I started thinking about the opportunities that my mom didn't have as far as going to college. She had gone to the workforce, became a wife, became a mother, and yet times had changed, and I thought about it. When Jake was 3 years old, I mentioned to Mom that I was going to take a college class, and she thought that was excellent. She said, "Who's going to babysit Jake?" I said, "No one, I'm going to do it online." She thought that was the greatest thing at all. And I was telling her, "You know what's really interesting is, Mom, you were one of the early people in computer technology because you were a key punch operator. So you were the one who punched all those little holes into all those little cards that would be fed into the computer. And every single one of those has some bit of data on it." I thought about how far computers had come at that time that I could actually have one in my home. And it didn't need a little card. I had something called the internet. Years went by, and I kept on taking college classes on the computer, and then I got up my guts because she told me I was smart enough I could take college classes on campus. My mom always believed in me being smart. I owe that to her because I was so scared, but she was brave. I didn't tell her how many degrees I got because I was ashamed that I was becoming like a professional student, as somebody would say. I got 3 degrees before I went to Fresno State. When I went to Fresno State, I called her up after the first day because it was 108 degrees. And she thought it was so wonderful. She wanted to hear all the details about going to university. I wouldn't have been there without her demanding that I be educated. I am today educated because of my mother, because of her bravery. There are so many things that my mom taught me. So many things I tried to do and failed to be like her. When it came to peeling an apple, my mom could peel it in one peel. We used to eat the apple peels like candy. I tried and I tried to do the same thing, and the most I've ever gotten to one peel was 2. My son thought that I was, aiming high, but I said she could do it in 1. I've always tried to be a good mother. I had a good role model for that. She took us to the park. She took us to our scouting things. She was always there. She's the person who told me, "Don't be afraid to go knock on somebody's door and sell them cookies or scout around tickets." She was brave in ways that people don't understand or don't necessarily see. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Bob, you want to come up and say a word? You play at the end.
What? I guess this wasn't what any of us expected. I'm Bob, the youngest son of Laura. And I just had a few things to add on to what Ed had mentioned before. On Mom, that she really enjoyed dancing. She used to go square dancing when she was with Becky, and she knew how to do all kinds of dances. I think not being able to dance was like the worst for her. I mean, maybe not the worst, obviously, but maybe one of the second or third worst. She loved to hang out with her friends at church, and she'd go just about every day, St. Callistus. So everybody knew her. Everybody started going with her towards the end there, and everybody's come up to me, all of her friends, saying, "Oh, I love your mom. She's so awesome." I know this place would have been packed had it been available for more than 10 people, but she was a leader also of the Sarahs, and she procured speakers, guest speakers. She took it seriously, and I met that group. We all had dinner one day, and yeah, everybody loved her there too. She was also a member of the Richmond Elks Lodge. She had been an elk for 11 years, and she was dating Pete. I guess after my dad, she married Bob Salmon and lived in Fairfield. But as a son, you don't really want to get to know really the guy that married your mom after your dad. So I didn't really give him much of a chance. But the last guy that she met and married was James Peterson. He was a sweet guy. And if you want your mom to marry somebody cool, he was a good dude. He did his tours for his country, dropping bombs on the Nazis in World War II. But he set her up in a nice little place and let her live her life till she passed without us having to worry about her resources and things like that. I think if I had any regrets, it's that she did spend a lot of time by herself. But like I said, while she was alive, she made the most of her friends, and she was a big hugger. She loved hugging. But anyway, I wanted to play a song, but I know that you want me to play it at the end, but I'd rather just play it now. And the thing about my mom and Jim is, Jim used to play the piano. So I was just starting to pick up the guitar, and I had long hair at the time, and I had this really cool guitar that got stolen. But he's like, "Yeah, send us some, play something for us." And I was terrible. I was like, "Oh my God." So I just kept trying to get better and better. They'd say, "Hey, send us something." I don't know why they'd tell me to send them something. I'd do these recordings, and I'd play songs, and after a little while, I got better and better. But anyway, I used to go up and visit her for a couple weeks at a time, or whatever, on a weekend when I lived in California, groups of a time. And I used to play for her just about every night or every couple of nights. And the stuff that I wrote on my own, did on my own, she really liked. And